and shoulders are properly arranged. Closed eyes. Slowly inhale. Gently open your eyes. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I hope the construction sound of hammering and all uh, is not going to disturb you because we are having some work going on in the lower flat. तो मैं हॉल से अपने आप को बेडरूम में तो ले आया, लेकिन आवाज कुछ कम नहीं लग रही मुझे, वैसी ही दिख रही है. But at the same time, we will continue this way. Okay, you will have to bear with that slight disturbance which is happening. Last class, we had done about the technique of Nadi Shodhan. And we also understood that inhaling through the left, retaining the breath in, exhaling through the right, inhaling through the right, retaining the breath in and exhaling through the left. With this Nadi Shodhan happening with the Kumbhak phase, Puraka and Rechaka, it was said in the shlok number 11 that we need to do the practices 4 times a day. Pratah, Adhyadine, Sayam, Ardharatre, कुंभकान शनैर शीत पर्यंतम चतुर्वारम समभ्यसेत. ये हमारा 11वां श्लोक था जिसमें हमने इस बात को समझा कि 80 साइकिल्स शनैर शीत पर्यंतम. We are doing 80 cycles in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, as well as in the midnight. And this we have to practice regularly daily. And the result of the same was mentioned in the number 12, where it says, Kaniyasi bhavet svedah, kampo bhavati madhyame, uttame sthanam apnoti, tato vayu nibandayet. Kaniyasi, a sadhak who is of mrudu type, madhya type, and uttama. So when we come to adhama or mrudu, we need to understand at the lower level, you will experience the perspiration, sweating because of the practice of pranayama. Kampo bhavati madhyame. And the person who is practicing at a medium level will be experiencing vibrations, kampan. Uttame sthanam apnoti tato vayu nibandayet. And the one who is practicing it in all its best of ability or intensity, a kind of blissful experience is what he is going through. It is a state of the rising of the prana through the Brahmarandra to the highest part, or you can say the highest conceptual understanding in Hatha Yoga. That is easily said that when you are practicing with that intensity, the Kundalini gets awakened and the Sushumna Nadi is open for this Mahaprana to flow through it and become one with the Shiva. So this understanding is coming here. Now, we need to understand this aspect as we have slightly discussed it in the last class also. Okay, what is the level of Kaniyasi, what is the level of Madhyama, and what is the level of Uttama? In Gheranda Samhita, it has been explained beautifully कि when you are practicing 12 matra Puraka, 48 matra Kumbhaka, and 24 matra Rechaka, the ratio is 1:4:2. This is Kaniyasi. This is the lower or Adhama type of practice. When it comes to Madhyama, it is 16, 64, 32. 16, yeah, Sunil Bhai.
Sorry, just one little question relating to the previous shloka. So, in the daytime, yes, of course, all kinds of pranayam can be practiced. But, my impression was that during the night time, Kumbhaka is not to be done. Is that correct or otherwise?
In fact, when a person comes to this level of practice, it is said that for him, the day and the night, as it has been mentioned in Bhagavad Gita also, Nisha and Diva. So there, for a yogi, for a practitioner who at this level, if he is practicing, for him the day and night is immaterial. For him only practice matters a lot. But when it comes to common man, it is said always that it is better to avoid practicing Kumbhaka phase late night. At the most, you can practice in the evening. That is 1 hour up to maximum 1 to 2 hours after the sunset, but not beyond that. So as you were saying, so this thing should be noted down. But at the same time, when it comes to a yogi, now this is something said in our 4th chapter of this very Hatha Pratipika, where it is said, okay, when the yogi comes to this level, for him, the material day and night doesn't carry any importance. For him, even the night is similar to the day, and the day is similar to the night, and he keeps on flowing in that state of mind, or you can say in that state of spirituality, and continues with his sadhana. So that is how we have to take it, sir.
Okay, one other little query. Many times I've noticed that, especially when one is a little tired, which happens not infrequently, Anulom Vilom leads to kind of, it has a soporific effect, and one kind of, begins to feel sleepy. So, how does this, first of all, is it a common experience? And second, what is the mechanism? How does this happen that one, relaxes and begins to feel sleepy after doing Anulom Vilom?
When we are talking about the relaxation response, let us come to this conclusion: that all the yogic practices induces the release of the GABA, the gamma aminobutyric acid, which is a chemical which is released in our nervous system, which helps in that relaxation response or a parasympathetic activation. So when we say parasympathetic activation is taking place, obviously we are relaxing. But when it comes to a person who is practicing with all intensity, and the aim is to that level where 80 cycles are being done with 20 inhalation, 80 retention, and 40 rechaka, exhalation. Now, you are going completely beyond the state of body. As today morning we were discussing about the gunas. From the grosser gunas, we are going to the satvikta, the lighter one. The heavier one, we are going towards the lighter one. So when you are crossing from this zone to that zone, Satvikta is full of concentration. And we also came across in the morning in Bhagavad Gita class about Tandri. Now that relaxation, we need to understand that overcoming that relaxation, we should connect it with the laziness also, or we can say the tamasikta, which is overcoming above us and not allowing it to go further. But now, sir, we have to understand the level of the practice that we are into. This level of practice, this level is so high that there is no relativity to that Tandri or there is no relativity to that kind of relaxation response. In fact, you have gone beyond that relaxation response of physical experiences and you are into state of awareness now. So this Nadi Shodhan leads you, see, just imagine in Goraksha Shataka, now I should mention this, the great Gorakshanath Ji gives us the description about nadis, and he says about 72,000 nadis, and says out of this 72,000 there are 72 which are important, and out of these 72 there are 10 which are important, and in that 10 he mentions their name, and he says Ida, Pingla, Sushumna. Having said this, he connects Gandhari with the left eye, connects the Pusha, the Gandhari with the left eye, Hasti Jiva with the right eye, then Pusha with the left ear, and Yashaswini with the right ear. See, this description are very much given in Goraksha Shataka, and it is around, I, if I remember correctly, it is around 25 to 30. Goraksha Shataka is available on internet. If you go ahead and see this, and then he talks about the Kuhu being connected to your genitals and Shankhini connected with your anus region. Now here, when I questioned my teacher, okay, how he is very clear with this connectivity, he said, Sabir, there are many nadis. When we say 72,000, we have to understand the concept of innumerable nadis. And when here he is saying about these specific ones, then we need to understand that where the awareness level gets diverted, or you can say go stray, and we need to withdraw the senses, we need to control our bodies in that way, whether it is related to excretory system or reproductive system or the senses or with your speech, whether it is karma indriyas or whether it is jnana indriyas. All these nadis, unless and until they are retained and almost withdrawn within with their perceptions or with their connections, it will be very difficult for a person to go further and let the prana to travel through the Madhya Nadi. And here in Nadi Shodhan itself, it is said, when you are practicing at the highest intensity, then you are experiencing that ultimate level. What is that ultimate? The traveling of the prana through the Sushumna. So here the clarity from the Goraksha Shataka coming to Hatha Pratipika, very clearly, somewhere with Nadi Shodhan, we are slowly, gradually cleansing and purifying the other nadis. While purifying the other nadis, our awareness level to the subtle ones is not that higher. But the moment we go on practicing regularly every day, as it has been said here, 3 months of practice will, that to this way, has been told by Swatmaram ji. If according to him we practice for 3 months, then only we are going beyond the Nadi Shuddhi state and into the state of Kumbhaka that we are getting ready for. But here, we, as per you and me, the kind of practice or the kind of approach we have towards the practice, and even in today's scenario, in this Kali Yuga, where it is very difficult to become focused and involved. So all these things catering to our what you can say distractions or deviations or disturbances, it becomes very important for us to understand that we are gradually coming to that awareness level. So the awareness level which I was talking about, that when you go into that state, then you are almost overcoming the vrittis, whether it is related to smriti, whether it is related to nidra. So see, these have been said in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras as vrittis, whether it is the right knowledge or whether it is a wrong knowledge or invalid knowledge. So everything connected with the Prakruti or the external, we are completely getting devoid of them and going more and more internalized. So sometimes pranayam for a common person and pranayam for a sadhaka who is in the state of sadhana is huge difference. Huge difference means a huge difference. A hatha yogi is very far from the simple practitioner in the city or you can say in the village. दोनों में जमीन आसमान का फर्क है. तो ये लेवल को समझने के लिए जब भी स्वात्माराम जी हमें समझाने की कोशिश करते हैं, तो ये हमको हमेशा ध्यान में रखना चाहिए कि वो कौन से लेवल की बात कर रहे हैं और हम कौन से लेवल पे इसको समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. So whenever he says about the diet also, which is going to come next, which we had understood in the previous chapter, the diet for a hatha yogi is different from the diet for that a common man. For a common man, he may need which a yogi needs to avoid. तो ये सारी जो डिफरेंसेस है ना, हमको एक आई शुड से एक्सीलेंट साधक and the one who is yet to even enter into that excellence. तो ये दोनों के अंदर का जो फर्क है वो हमेशा दिमाग में रखकर ये चीजों को समझना होगा. That is where you will overcoming that relaxation response or that kind of thing you were talking about. तो सुनील भाई, as we were saying in therapeutical measures, as we bring this practice for therapy, it is really going to introduce relaxation, induce relaxation. But when it comes to sadhana, it will take you beyond that relaxation into awareness level.
Very good.
This is how we have to connect with it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, somebody else. Yes, please.
This,
Yeah, Ashutosh sir is saying something.
Sabir bhai, this 20, 80, 40 or 12, 48, 24 or 16, 64, 30, this refers to what unit of measurement?
When I say unit of measurement, in our Hiranya Samhita, it is said a matra. And many authors have connected this matra to 1 second, which is slightly either more or less.
Okay.
मात्रा मेजरमेंट. तो कई बार ऐसे होता है कि कुछ ऑथर ने ऐसे कहा है कि 1.25 सेकंड का एक मात्रा होता है. अभी मॉडर्न ऑथर्स जो हैं, कंटेम्पररी टीचर्स दे हैव, बट समबडी हैज सेड कि द 3/4 of a second is 1 matra. So we should take it as 1 second for 1 matra and get along with it, because ultimately when we practice for ourselves, it is the type of calculation that we keep for ourselves will matter more rather than how the measurement is actually to be going into that. In fact,
it means that at the lowest level it is 48 seconds. You
yes.
keep, I see, 48 seconds is quite a lot, no?
Yes, and that's what I was telling you last time also, that today Sabir bhai may start with 4, 12 or 4, 16 and 8. But to make it 4, 16 and 8 also, the kind of effort that we are putting in, initially we are doing only 4 and 8, Purak and Rechaka. We are not adding the Kumbhaka phase. But then slowly, we start with 4, 4, 8. That is 1:1:2. And then we make it 1:2, 4, 8, 8. And then we go for 4, 12, 8. And then we come for 4, 16, 8. The moment you are getting that kind of confidence of 4, 16, 8, then Sabir bhai will say, Ashutosh sir, now you start with 5, 20 and 10. Then next he will say, now you make it 6, 24 and 12. Now you make it 7, 28 and 14. And then 8, 32 and 16, 9, 36 and 18. So this way gradually you to Ashutosh bhai, just try to understand when we will come to that Kaniyasi level, 12, 48 and 24, it is regular practice. It is regular practice. जैसे पतंजलि कहते हैं कि without abhyas, it won't be possible for us to get into vairagya, and without vairagya, abhyas is not possible. So abhyas and vairagya both goes simultaneously together. We need to get detached from the external world, let our mind get focused on it, and increase our ability, capacity to perform the practices in that manner. But caution is already given. You should do it gradually, slowly, step by step. And for pranayam, earlier the caution, you should start only under the guidance of a teacher. And if a teacher who is the pranayam teacher, then his level should be very clear. what he is expecting from the students, and he should not always impose his abilities on the student. Then he is a guru. Otherwise, at times what happens? The teacher feels, I have learned it in 3 months. Why can't you do it? Now that is where we go wrong. So the teacher has to come to the level of the student and understand his ability and capacity and accordingly guide him to lift up. तो ये सारी चीजें बहुत मायने रखती हैं प्राणायाम के अंदर, और इसमें थोड़ा बहुत भी इधर उधर हुआ, there are chances that the person may come across problems. So many a times in common public, we avoid teaching Kumbhaka, we just teach them Sahaj Kumbhak. What is Sahaj Kumbhak? According to your ability and capacity, try to retain the breath in and peacefully go ahead. It's like that. I hope you got it. Sir, you are mute. Yes.
Now you mentioned problems. That if you do it in a hurry or in a different way, then there will be problems. So what kind of problems?
Here itself, the next 2-3 shlokas you will be coming across. Ikka swashascha kashascha shira karna akshi vedanaha bhavanti vivida rogaha avanasya prakopata. So this is now coming in the next 3-4 shlokas. You will be coming across that. Swatmaramji has beautifully laid it down. The way he has made the student to learn it and understand it and adopt it is really very good. These other authors have not done justice to that, but Swatmaramji is very good in that. Let's go to it and see it. Yeah.
One more thing, Sabir bhai, the note which we ended the last class is the role of pollution in the practice of pranayama.
Yes, very much.
What are the effects that pollution has on the ability to do or not do, or the advisability to do or not do pranayama?
See, one thing is very clear. Okay, the air that we are accessing to in pranayamic practice is the available one. If the available air is having pollution, then don't you think that without doing pranayam, we are already affected because of that pollution? And now you are doing pranayam in pollution, and you are trying to retain the polluted air in. How dangerous it may be? So, Gheranda Samhita mentions very clearly that this atmosphere should be rid of all the pollutions. And here in the Hatha Pratipika also, in the first chapter itself, while mentioning about the place of the practice and the kind of distance it should be having from the city and all, it is very clearly mentioned. Okay, you should be away from Shila, Agni, Jala Vivarjitaha. All these things should be Varja. You should be away from this. And not only that, you should be away from the city. And it should be completely free from the pollution around. And studies have been done. Whenever a person who is in the city life takes a break and goes to the village where the pollution is less, he finds that without taking any medicine, without doing any kind of exercise, his digestion is becoming normal. His evacuation or constipation is not there. Evacuation is happening properly, and he feels that the allergy conditions that he was going through in being in the city is no more there. Now, this itself is an understanding to a practitioner of pranayam that you should be practicing pranayam in a polluted, free atmosphere. It should not be in the city atmosphere where all the kind of pollutants are there around us. अब ये बात अलग है कि as a teacher और as a student, अगर अवेलेबिलिटी और हमारी जरूरत शहर में ही है तो सिखाने के लिए तो हम सिखा देते हैं, सीखने के लिए लोग सीख भी जाते हैं, लेकिन ये बात बताना बहुत जरूरी हो जाता है कि आप प्रैक्टिस किस तरह से करनी चाहिए, कहाँ करनी चाहिए. एंड इट इज ऑलवेज एडवाइज दैट द एटमॉस्फेयर शुड बी फ्री ऑफ पॉल्यूटेंट्स. तो वन थिंग आई वुड सजेस्ट कि अभी हमारे यहाँ पे तो हम कहते हैं कि वीकेंड्स के अंदर जो है एटलीस्ट 7 days में एक बार हिल स्टेशन चले जाओ. लोनावाला नजदीक है या फिर माथेरान नजदीक है या फिर महाबलेश्वर नजदीक है. टेक दैट शॉर्ट ब्रेक अवे so that 2 days Saturday is preparing you for the next 5 days at least. But said and done, it is not that easy. And said and done in yoga, we need to understand कि where that sadhaka is practicing and whether he should practice or not. मुझे गुरुजी की एक बात याद है, उन्होंने मैंने पहले भी आप लोगों को ये बात बताई कि he used to always say कि it is ideal not to teach pranayama to a new student. Only that student, when he graduates to that level that he is ready for pranayama, then see to it whether he should be practicing pranayama in that current scenario, and then advise him that you are teaching him, but the proper practice of pranayama should be done in a polluted free. नहीं तो आगे जाके हम अष्टकुंभक में शीतली और सितकारी समझने वाले हैं. शीतली और सितकारी में you are supposed to do puraka through your mouth. Now the kind of engineering that has been done in our nostril to purify the air and then let it go into the windpipe, that kind of purification is not going to happen in the mouth. So then it is becoming more riskier for us. So being in the atmosphere like or Delhi, we should avoid doing mukha pranayama, or you can say the inhalation or puraka through the mouth in that circumstances. So it is not advised, sir. You got it, Sunil bhai?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. We are going ahead next. So as I was connecting you to this, if you come to the shlok number 13, जलेन श्रम जातेन गात्रमर्दनम आचरेत् दृढ़ता लघुता च इव तेन गात्रस्य जायते. Now, many a times it is only translated as it is written here. One should rub over the body the perspiration or the exertion, जो पसीना छूटता है उससे ही आपको अपने शरीर का मसाज करना चाहिए. बट और ऐसे भी कहा जाता है कि ऐसे करने से you will find that your body is becoming stronger and lightness. But now we need to know, as you have understood the previous explanation also, okay, what kind of life you are living, what kind of food you are eating, in which kind of atmosphere environment you are living, and the kind of lifestyle that you are going through. And in that case, if you are going to a particular type of pranayam or any other practice, is it advised that sweating or the perspiration should be rubbed on the body to make it strong and light? Then my teacher said no. When I asked this question, he said no. In fact, in our case, one should never rub on the body. In fact, we should wipe it out from the body. We should not rub it on the body. You should, if you want to do that kind of rubbing to the body, he gave me or gave us a beautiful other course. He said, after having done with the yogic practice or after having done with the pranayama, after half an hour to 45 minutes, one should take a nice bath and take the massage of the body, either dry massage with the powder or oil massage. Because massage is very good to direct the vata in the body and stabilize it. Now, this was the instruction of a qualified teacher who said it to me. Though I haven't heard this from Guruji, but Guruji has taught him also, and he was our senior teacher. And when this clarity comes in, so for a yogi who is only eating pathya, that is, which is agreeable food, who is living in a polluted free atmosphere, and when he is doing all the kind of purification within his body and evacuation, digestion, everything is to the point and perfect, and he is not diseased. Now, when he is not diseased or not going through or facing any kind of ailments, that person, if is experiencing perspiration out of pranayama, he can think of rubbing it on his own body. But we who are having a lot of toxins within, and perspiration is one way of releasing those toxins out. And if we are rubbing that perspiration on our body, it is not advised for a person like you and me who are going through Dainandin exertion. So this is what we have to connect and understand and go ahead with that. So understood shlok number 13. We are going ahead with shlok number 14. अभ्यास काले प्रथमं शस्त्रं क्षीरराज्य भोजनम ततो अभ्यास दृढ़ीभूते न तादुम नियमतः. I have been saying this many times before. Okay, before starting the practice of pranayama, in the beginning, one should be having food or diet with ample milk and ghee in it. And once the practitioner has come to a level of stabilization, then there is no need to observe such kind of discipline. In fact, he becomes so disciplined that he doesn't even need that kind of ahar to sustain him, because his prana vayu itself is enough to make him to go through the practice and continue excellently in the process. But at the same time, many times ahead also we will come across certain practices like Viparit Karni Mudra, like Mahamudra. These are the practices where we consume lot of nutritive energy, and to excel in those practices like Viparit Karni Mudra and have that kind of gesture, we need to eat ample of food in order to do justification with that. अब यहाँ पर कभी कभी आदत ऐसा पूछते हैं कि हम तो कह रहे हैं कि आपको मिताहार का पालन करना चाहिए, युक्त आहार का पालन करना चाहिए, और यहाँ पर एक प्रैक्टिस ऐसी आ गई जिसमें आप खाना ज्यादा खाने के बारे में बातें कर रहे हैं. तो प्रैक्टिस ऐसी आई है जिसकी नीड है शरीर के अंदर उतनी ऊर्जा होने के लिए उतना फ्यूल हो, और अगर आप शरीर उस फ्यूल को प्रदान करने में सक्षम नहीं है तो आप एडिशनल फ्यूल ऐड करने के तरीके अपनाने होंगे. एंड दैट इज व्हाट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड इन दैट विपरीत करणी मुद्रा, which is been explained in the 3rd chapter. So here also in pranayam, when a person is going through that level of excellence, he needs to understand that disciplining of the diet. That disciplining of the diet can be different from person to person. It may not be always same for Sabir bhai, for Ashutosh bhai, for Asha madam, or for Sunil bhai, same diet. So if I am saying this is the diet for you all, then somewhere it may suit some and somewhere it may not suit some. So we need to come to that awareness level and understand how, what, why suits us. And if that clarity is done, then you can excel on your path. So this becomes a very important factor to go ahead in the practice of Hatha Yoga. But this kind of gesture may not be observed in other types of yoga. Like you can say Raja Yoga or Bhakti Yoga or Karma Yoga. You just need to be what you are and try to understand by witnessing where you are going astray and where you are being focused on the path. If this clarity is there, this discriminative vivek is always existing, then we can understand the passion as well as dispassionateness. So if this quality is maintained there, the yoga happens. But here in Hatha Yoga, the ideology is completely or slightly different from that of the other types of yoga. So this is always we have to bring in and connect and go ahead. Now see the next where it says Yatha Sinho Gajo Vyagro Bhaved Ushya Shanaihi Shanaihi Tathaiva Sevito Vayur Anyatha Hanti Sadakam. Hanti is the word which means to kill, which is used in an exaggeration mode. Actually, it is to be taken as it may make very difficult for the person to continue in disciplining of the breath. So here the simile or the example is given that the way the tiger, the lion, or the elephant are brought under control or tamed slowly, gradually, step by step. The ringmaster, directly catching from the jungle, will not introduce that wild animal in the ring and immediately start instructing. It may happen that the wild animal will pounce upon the ringmaster and kill him, because now he is not trained, he is not tamed. So that taming, that training is required. And here it says, tathaiva sevito. In the very similar manner, you need to do justice to your breath by training it slowly, gradually. Otherwise, you will not be able to sustain the kind of understanding of your breath, and you may fall prey to problems. So here, our breath has been compared to the wild animals. That means we are not in control of our breath. Now, if we are not in our control of breath, that we should understand that we are not in control of our senses. As in Bhagavad Gita, also we in the last class I was connecting to you. Very beautifully said in those two shlokas, na? 62 and 63 of the second chapter. Dhyato vishayan pusaha sangasteshu upajayate. Angat sanjayate kama, kamat krodha bijayate. And the next sloka, 63rd one says, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, the delusion comes in. Sammoha, smruti vibhramusha. Smruti vibhramushat buddhi nasho. See, now here that connectivity should be brought in. The breath is like a wild animal if your senses are not under control, if your habits are not under control, if your mind is not under control. It is very risky to practice pranayama. कभी कभी डॉक्टर सजेस्ट करते हैं ना पेशेंट को, तुमको बहुत गुस्सा है, एक काम करो, साबिर भाई हैं वहां नेरुल में, उनके पास जाइए और प्राणायाम सीखिए. जब साबिर भाई के पास आते हैं ना, तो साबिर भाई बोलते हैं आपको प्राणायाम की नहीं, आपको दूसरे प्रैक्टिसेस की ज्यादा जरूरत है. तो दूसरे प्रैक्टिस से फिर वो बार बार पूछता रहता है, सर प्राणायाम कब शुरू होगा, सर प्राणायाम कब शुरू होगा. जब तक प्राणायाम की तैयारी खत्म नहीं होती, बेटा प्राणायाम कहां से शुरू होगा. And he waits for 3 years, and then I tell him, now it is the time that you should start practicing pranayama. बोले सर अभी क्यों? क्योंकि अभी तुम्हारा गुस्सा कम हो गया. सर ये गुस्सा तो प्राणायाम से कम होने वाला था, आप तो अभी प्राणायाम शुरू करवा रहे हैं. ये आपके डॉक्टर का वर्जन था, लेकिन जब योग के वर्जन में आ जाएंगे तो इट विल बी अ कंप्लीट डिफरेंट अप्रोच. माय डियर, you have to understand philosophy first. Unless that philosophy is inculcated in the practices are not going to be going ahead with the right means. You may go stray. And see, friends, that is what is happening with today's yoga practitioners. In fact, I am repeating this. I should not say this again and again, but I have seen people, the better the yoga practitioner, the higher is the ego. And they are falling prey to everything around them and not coming to the understanding of the philosophy which comes through Bhagavad Gita, which comes through Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which comes through the text like Hatha Pradipika. Now, this is where we need to understand this shloka, which compares the breath to the wild animals. I hope this is clear here now. Yes, sir.
I just want to ask a very silly question.
Please. No question is silly, sir.
In your experience, have you seen people falling because they practice pranayama in the wrong way?
Yes.
That problem.
Yes.
Have you come across such
Yes.
cases?
Yes. I don't want to name the institute, but the moment you start going through the course of that institute, they teach you Bhastrika Pranayam within 5 days. Within 5 days program, they are teaching you Bhastrika Pranayam. And I have seen people practicing that Bhastrika Pranayam for months. And when a subject came to me and told me that he is having these problems, I asked him what he was going through and how he is practicing. When I saw his practice, I said clearly to him, hey, what you are doing is not supposed to be done now. So now what? He asked the question. The answer was, whatever you have learned, first unlearn it. So unlearning, how I am going to unlearn now? Stop practicing whatever you are doing and don't do practice for at least 1 month. Don't do any practice for 1 month. Then, sir, what should I do in yoga? Just watch the breaths. As you inhale and exhale, simply experience your breath. You are not supposed to do any kind of manipulation. You are not doing any practices of yoga. No asana, nothing. What you have to do now, if you want to unlearn and forget, just be there. Hey, sir, ये कैसा possible होगा? मैंने कहा तुम्हारा मदर टंग क्या है? He said Marathi. तो मराठी भाषा तुम कभी भूल सकते हो? बोले नहीं, लेकिन एक काम करो, यूएस में जाके रह जाओ and be with those people without speaking Marathi for 3-4 years. And when you come back to Mumbai and speak Marathi with me, you will find that you are not able to speak Marathi that well the way you are speaking English now. He said, that is so true. In a very similar manner, you have to train your mind to unlearn what you have been used to. जब तक इससे बाहर नहीं आएंगे, आप नया सीख नहीं पाएंगे. It is a very similar, like Zen meditation principle. Unless you empty what is there inside, you cannot add new thing to it. Very clear. So you have to remove everything that is there in it. It is conditioned now. Become completely deconditioned and then start conditioning with other aspect, which is a correct way to go ahead. So this is how we need to train them and make them unlearn and then learn the right way to practice. This is how the things go ahead, sir. I hope you got it.
To know was this shlok is a very strong warning. No? It's a very
Yes,
strong
very
warning.
strong warning. The
that's
next
why
two
I was
also they are
asking.
very strong. That's what I was saying. Okay, this caution has been given to make people understand that pranayama is something which has to be done under guidance and with proper ability. Even if you are having a guidance and that guidance is not seeing your ability and trying to teach you, you will fall prey to problems. We are not focusing more on problems for your information, but at the same time, it is a caution. It is an understanding how we should subject ourselves to it. Yes, Bhai.
So here, actually, and sir, you would also relate to that, both on account of our physiological condition being what it is, and also the ambient conditions in the urban environment. I have personally found that the institute of the approach of the Yoga Institute, Santa Cruz, which is to begin with for quite some time, simply do, if you reflect the breathing practices, that is the strengthening of the muscles, abdominal breathing, the intercostal breathing, the clavicular breathing, right? So this is, Sabir bhai, if I'm not wrong, there is no harm in doing these things, right?
Yes, you are right.
So what this does is first of all, it strengthens the breathing capacity. Because when by practice, if you are strengthening the diaphragm, then the amount of breath you can take in a single cycle increases. Likewise, the second one, the muscles near the ribs and the muscles near the neck region. Second, and here we are not doing any manipulation whatsoever. So, we steer clear of the dangers. And at the same time, this is a very indirect handle on getting the breath, if not under control, at least developing awareness of the breath. When we are breathing through the abdomen, which is the most natural way of breathing, which is a way that an infant breathes, which is the way that nature has, kind of provided for us to breathe. We are not only coming back to a more natural state of being, right? But in the process, you can't help observing your breath, after all, if you're working with it. So this is a very, very good prelude to pranayama, and absolutely, it's a godsend in the kind of environments we are, where not doing pranayama at all is again can seem a little, incomplete. So this is a very this is one of the best things to do in your and my settings as a preparation when we can do pranayam in a cleaner and a setting and a more
exactly. I still remember my first teacher, as I told you, he was a military man. A person coming to learn yoga in the regular class, and when I used to also visit, I used to see Mr. Chitnis, my sir, used to make him just sit and not make him to do any practice. And he used to make him sit and he used to say, "Okay, you sit here and just watch people practicing. Don't do the practice." So it has been more than 1 or 2 months that he started asking, "Okay, am I just going to be sitting here and just watching people?" So he said, "In present scenario, I am trying to know you with your breaths. Are you ready for the practice of yoga? And unless and until you are not ready, I will not even suggest even Sukshma Vyayam and other things for you to start with. So at present, as you come here, you have to just sit beside me and observe the class." So he said, "How I am getting benefited?" One simple answer. He said, "You are getting benefited by getting across the vibes of other people. This place itself, if you are coming and exposing yourself to this vibes, that itself is more than enough for you to go ahead as a start. Don't do anything else now. And when the time comes, I will let you know how to go ahead." So that was a beautiful learning for me. And it added to my, understanding people and taking them and guiding them ahead. So this is how we have to understand the cases and go ahead. Yes, sir.
There are two things. One is that truly speaking, I find it very difficult to believe that my breath has so much of power.
Yes.
I find it very difficult to believe that he is giving such a strong warning that if you don't do it slowly, it will be harmful to you. That's what he is saying. No, Atmaramji is saying.
The moment you understand, according to Prashna Upanishad, Piplad Muni's explanation about prana, when he says pranasyedam idam sarvam tridive yat pratishtham mateva putrana trischa prajnamcha videhana iti. So that is a beautiful description of prana which is coming to you. You are between simple air breath and the breath as prana. So the level of understanding with mind here itself, today itself in the morning we were discussing about your approach towards the situations around. So how you take it is ultimately going to lead you ahead. When it is breath, it is difficult, but when it becomes prana, it is the powerful source that you are having. That's how we have to go ahead.
Yeah. And secondly, I always yesterday only telling my wife that when I learn Yogasana from Jay Kumar ji is always saying slowly, slowly, slowly. Whenever he gives an instruction, he always says slowly, slowly raise your foot, slowly.
In fact, that becomes the mantra now. Okay. The next one is again a very beautiful one and important one. Pranayamena yuktena sarvaroga shayo bhavet. Ayuktabhyasa yogena sarvaroga samutbhava. See, when you are doing proper practice of pranayam, all the diseases, disorders are annihilated. But unknowingly also improper practice may lead to inviting problems, inviting ailments, inviting diseases. Now, this is being said, and the next sloka adds to it. What are the symptoms that we are going through? Hikka, asascha, kashascha, kshirakana akshi vedanaha, bhavanti vividarogaha, pavanasya prakopata. So here, the diseases that we are coming across, the symptoms of them will be like hiccups, asthma, cough, pain in the ear and the eyes. And these are nothing but the disturbances in the flow of prana. Now, let me not stop here. Guruji used to add two more things. He said, okay, here it is said, no doubt there is pain in the head. But in fact, if you are wrongly practicing breathing practices or breathing maneuvers, not only pranayam, even if Kapalabhati is wrongly practiced, even if other kind of breathing techniques are wrongly practiced, it will lead to sleeplessness. you will feel very sleepy. But when you close your eyes to go and lie down and try to sleep, you will find that you are unable to sleep. वो एक प्रकार की बेचैनी, uneasiness is always existing in you. And that uneasiness should make you understand if something is wrong with your technique, with your practice, or somewhere unknowingly you are going through something wrong type of understanding of the subject, and you need to clarify it with your teacher there. And connected with this, he goes ahead and says, Yuktam yuktam tajet vayum, yuktam cha purayet, yuktam cha badniyad, evam siddhim apniyat. One should exhale, retain, inhale in a very regulated manner. And if he is doing this in a proper way, one day he is going to attain success in pranayama or in yoga. So here, as we have come to the next shloka onwards, the next 19th one is telling us the benefit of practicing Nadi Shuddhi. Yada tu Nadi Shuddhi syat tada chihani bahyatah kayasya krishata kantis tatha jayate nishitam. So when each and every nadis are getting purified, the appearance of the external is lean and thin, and you will find that not only the slimness of the body, but there is a glow on the face, the luster on the face. These are the symptoms which you will come as a benefit if you're doing it right. But if you're doing wrong, what is you are going through is been told earlier. So with these two things understood clearly, he says, Yatheshta dharanam vayurnalasya pradipnam nad abhivyakti arogyam jayate nadi shodhanat. So what is the result of nadi shodhan? How the good health is secured? As you are purifying the nadis and you are able to retain breath with ease. So in nadi shodhan itself, you have to learn how to retain the breath with ease. What is happening is the gastric heat is improved or increased or balanced, and the experience of the internally aroused sound. Now, here, if you go to the fourth chapter, very text Hatha Pradipika, and try to understand the literal meaning of Bindu, there it is said the internally aroused sound. Now, this internally aroused sound is nothing but an experience, you can say, upgradation of the practitioner who with regular practice becomes totally detached with the external things and become more and more internalized. And that is what it is saying, that the person gets rid of all the diseases. Arogyam comes to him. Arogyam jayate. Na abhivyakti. Arogyam jayate. Nadi shodhanat. So this is how we have come to the end of Nadi Shodhana Pranayama with the clarity of its effect. And last time, I did not share it on email with everyone. I forgot to do that. In fact, I shared 4 or 5 links with Sunil Bhai, where the studies have been done on this Nadi Shodhan. Studies have been done on this swara, that is the breath, the inhale and exhale, and how the left nostril breathing and right nostril breathing brings about the suitable changes. And with those studies, if you go through, it is very clear that such kind of not only the changes will happen, but approach and outlook to the life and the externals will completely change. And this is how we need to understand. Patmaramji adds to it. He says, okay, fine. Your mind is developing here. Your approach is becoming better and better. But still, the Med Shleshma are there in your body and they are affecting your performance of the practices. So then you should get rid of it by practicing Shatkarma. So Shatkarma, the Shuddhi Kriya, is coming in the next shloka, where he says, Med Shleshma Adikaha Purvam Shatkarmani Samacharit Anyastu Nacharitani Doshanam Samabhavatah. Now here, 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta and Kapha. These 3 doshas, when the word dosha comes in, do take it as users or very essential constituents in our body, which are prepared or brought about or made in connection with the Panch Mahabhut, Prithvi, Aap, Tej, Vayu, Akasha. The combination of these 5 Mahabhuta leads us. Sunil bhai, you are trying to say something? नहीं नहीं हाँ ठीक है. The combination of this Mahabhuta leads us into the functional ability of this Mahabhuta with respect to 3 doshas. These 3 doshas have been explained in detail in Ayurveda, and they say imbalance in any one of these 3 will lead to unhealthiness, ill health, or disease, or ailments, or disorders. So what Swatmaranji is saying, Med Shleshma Adikaha, if these are the things which are in excess in your body, Purvam Shatkarmani Samacharet, please do the practices of Shatkarma, the 6 cleansing processes. Anyastu, otherwise, if your 3 doshas are balanced, no need of doing this Shatkarma. Now, this is the version of Swatmaram Suriji, who is the author of Hatha Pradipika. But if we go into Gheranda Samhita, he has understood the people of 21st century better. So what he has written in his 18th century text, whether you are purified or not, but the kind of lifestyle that we are leading into now, it is very clearly taken into consideration that you are not pure. Your doshas are imbalanced. Not thinking right, you are not doing right, you are not understanding right, you are not behaving right. Everything is somehow manipulated or compromised. Even if you may be 90 right, 10% some problem is there. Even if you are 99% right, 1% problem is there. So in that case, first practice Shatkarma. Before even explaining the asanas, in Saptanga Yoga, the Sapta Shuddhi, he goes ahead and makes it clear with his version of Shuddhi Kriyas, where we are learning the Shatkarma not as 6 practices, but more classified into 20 Kriyas. Dhauti being classified into 13, Basti being classified into 2, Neti, Ataka, Nauli 1, 1, 1, Kapalbhati 3. Whereas in Hatha Pratipika, here as we are going ahead and studying, they are all one. And in Dhauti, to Vastra Dhauti, he gives the option of Gajakarni. And he explains how to do that. So now we will be entering into the field of Shatkarma, the purification through the practices which are connected to the Pancha Mahabhutas. Earth, water, fire, air. These are the very elements which we will be involving as medium of cleansing this body, which is made up of these 5 elements. As we are going through this cleansing of the body with these very 5 elements, there are certain practices which takes up water, which takes up fire, which takes up the air in order to bring about that purification. So now we are entering in. Before entering into it, is there anything that you want to ask related to Nadi Shodhan or the previously whatever we have learned and gone through?
Yeah. So really the sequence that we are seeing in chapter 2
Yeah.
seems to say that Nadi Shodhan has to come at the very first, at the outset. Right? So it's, while it is a pranayama, it may not be a pranayama. Correct? So because then hereafter you go to kriyas, which is Shausha, which is the starting point. Right? And then you go back to regular pranayama of the other kinds, I think. Right? Which involve
You are very much right, sir. One thing to add is they should simultaneously go together, in fact. If we are practicing Nadi first and then practicing Shuddhi Kriya, in today's scenario, let us take it together. Because to do Nadi Shodhan, you should have your Nadis clear to let the flow of prana to happen. Our understanding of kapha, vata, and pitta because of many reasons. Even the pitta leads to the blockages of the nostril. Excess heat you will also experience that one of the nostril is blocked. So Shuddhi Kriya plays a very vital role here. And they should go together. And as Gheranda Samhita says, Nadi Shodhan is coming in the 5th chapter of Pranayama. But before that 5th chapter, Pratyahara is there, Mudra is there, Asana is there, and Chatkarma is the first. So in this scenario, we need to go to Shatkarma first. No doubt. Pratipika says you practice Nadi Shodhan and then go for Pranayama. But in spite of practicing Nadi Shodhan, if you see that there is imbalance existing in the three doshas, then better practice and then only lead yourself into the what you call as pranayama or nadi shodhana. Until then, please make sure that you are clear and balanced with these three doshas. And to bring about this balancing of the three doshas, even asanas help a lot. Even asanas help a lot. So, along with Shuddhi Kriya, asana, and certain gestures, if we keep these three things going simultaneously together, certain mudras, if you are practicing regularly, this ideology will prepare you for Nadi Shodhan itself. So, Nadi Shodhan in today's scenario, the kind of atmosphere that we are living in, it is better that we keep it later and then start with, uh, and first start with asana, shatkarma, and the certain mudras, which will bring about that cleansing effect and prepare you to go ahead with the practice of pranayama next. So, this is how we have to take it. This is how we
So,
have to design the programs, in fact.
so yeah. So, Savira, that means that kriyas, that is Shatkarma, dynamic asanas, that is all those which involve movement, and certain mudras, they would be the starting point for yoga therapy.
Yes. Yes. And that too, understanding the ability and capacity of the person who is doing it.
Sabir bhai,
Ji.
may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
In my early experience, some people say Nadi Shodhan and Anulom Vilom is the same. And they taught me they said Anulom Vilom Nadi Shodhan and alternate nostril breathing. They name it all these names, and they taught me that there's Anulom Vilom. So are they same?
If you are asking me, I would say they are same.
Okay.
Now, I will give you actual reference. It is not my word. Jai Kumarji, your my speech is getting bounced in your hall. So keep yourself mute so that you will be able to hear properly. Now, let me give you the reference of Gheranda Samhita itself. In Gheranda Samhita, in the 5th chapter, we go ahead and understand Nadi Shodhan along with Shatkarma as a preparation for pranayama. Okay. As Nadi Shodhan is been explained and said that one should also practice Shuddhi Kriyas as Nirmanu Pranayama. And Nadi Shodhan he is given as Samanu Pranayama. So Samanu and Nirmanu, somewhere these both are preparatory for the ultimate pranayama. And when we start with the Ashtakumbhaka, in the first Ashtakumbhaka, which is given and explained as Sahita, in that Sahita, he gives us the practice of alternate nostril breathing. Now, I'm not saying it as Nadi Shodhan, but he says inhale through the left, retain in the breath, do the Kumbhaka phase with the Jalandhar Bandha, with the Udyana Bandha and Mula Bandha applied, and do the Rechaka through the right. Then inhale through the right, do retention within, and do Rechaka through the left. As this is said, he says, continue doing this Anuloma Viloma. There the word Anulom Vilom comes in. So Anulom Vilom should be taken as a higher practice than the Nadi Shodhan. Nadi Shodhan is purificatory practice Whereas Anulom Vilom, in another way, it is the part of the proper pranayamic processes itself. Now you are having the textbook of Gheranda Samhita with you, which is from Kaivalya Dham. You can go to the 5th chapter and read Nadi Shodhan and understand that Dhauti Karma as an added factor for Samanu and Nirmanu Pranayama. And then when you enter into the Ashtakumbhaka, the first practice, which is Sahita, the Sahita practice itself will give you the mentioning of the name Anulom Vilom there and how to do the Sahita Kumbhaka. So the explanation comes there. So here, as student of yoga, I will literally take Nadi Shodhan different from Anulom Vilom. Many a time, since the procedure of practicing two things is very similar, people say Nadi Shodhan karo ya Anulom Vilom karo. They take it liberally. But when we take reference of the text and why Gheranda Muni has explained it, because Anulom Vilom as a practice is higher to that Nadi Shodhan. First Nadi Shuddhi should happen, and then the practice of Nadi Shodhan should go ahead. Anulom Vilom should go ahead. Is that clear to you, my dear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Anything else?
yeah, by closing. So therefore, just to kind of summarize the difference between Nadi Shodhan and Anulom Vilom.
Ji.
So first of Nadi Shodhan is akin to almost like a Kriya because it's purificatory in nature.
Yes.
Whereas Anulom Vilom from the text seems to be a higher practice, more closer to the actual pranayama.
Yeah.
Now the process we are
Should I
saying.
stop you here? I'm very sorry to interrupt you.
Please. Yeah.
Gheranda Samhita very clearly says Nadi Shodhana as Samanu Pranayam. And for your information, sir, in this Nadi Shodhana Samanu Pranayama, he goes on to explain not only with Purak, Kumbhak and Rechak, but also with Bija Mantra. And he says this Nadi Shodhan is along with the Bija Mantra is also going to bring about the Shuddhi of mind. So when you say that Nadi Shodhan is akin to Kriya, you can say akin to Kriya, but it is not Kriya.
Yeah, correct.
That clarity I wanted to bring in. Now you can go ahead, sir.
Yeah, what I'm saying exactly. Along the spectrum, it is closer to Kriya, whereas Anulom Vilom is closer to regular pranayama. Now, second, we are saying that the process of doing both of these is pretty much similar. That is, you breathe in from one nostril, hold the breath, breathe out from the other nostril, then breathe in again from the nostril which you just breathed out, again hold the breath, and then breathe out from the first nostril. Right? And there is no, as you mentioned in the last class, no shunyak involved in either of these practices, at least in the classic texts. Right? So, is therefore, since while the effects are different, that means there must be a slight difference in the two practices, which is why the effects are different. So, is it the duration then which makes the difference, or what else is it that differentiates the two?
It is the approach, sir.
Okay.
Here it is been explained in the Kumbhaka, and as the first Kumbhaka, Sahita Kumbhaka in Gheranda Samhita, in that the Anulom Vilom technique is coming and the word Anulom Vilom is coming there. Clearly making us understand the approach of bringing the Eda and Pingla to such a balanced state that you are allowing the Sushumna to become opened up. Whereas in Nadi Shodhan, it is only the purification of the Nadis. Whenever we are talking about Kumbhaka, though Kumbhaka is there in Nadi Shodhan also, but as Anulom Vilom or Sahita Kumbhaka or coming in Ashta Kumbhaka. But here now it's coming in Ashta Kumbhaka. So when it is coming in Ashta Kumbhaka, the approach should be the activation of Kundalini, where the mouth of the Kundalini, which is objecting to the flow of prana through the Sushumna, is restricted, it is removed. And it is very clearly mentioned there. When this starts, the Kundalini is activated, it from the dormant state, it comes to the active state, and the Brahmarandra opens up for the flow of prana. So that is the beauty between Nadi Shodhan and this Kumbhaka phase of Anulom Vilom.
So when Anulom Vilom is practiced, and it is practiced at a later stage, then its effect is to balance Ida and Pingala and therefore open the central channel. Whereas Nadi Shodhan is practiced at a much earlier stage, and its effect is similar to the Kriyas, that is, in terms of just taking out the impurities. So, where you practice it determines the effect that you have. So, it's almost similar practice. We call it Nadi Shodhan at the initial stage, and we call it Anulom Vilom at the later stage. And because your physiology is better prepared, possibly the way it happens is also smoother and deeper, and therefore the balancing of nadis takes place there. So that, would we say that's the essential difference between the two?
Exactly, very essential difference, and you have mentioned it so nice, Sunil Bhai. This is something which is not given to the teachers nowadays when they are trained for the pranayama and all. This difference should be made very clear to them. And when this clarity is given, then the teacher is different from the instructor. Otherwise, in instruction, नाड़ी सब भेड़ बकरियां गधे घोड़े सब एक ही है, क्या कर रहे हैं, प्राणायाम कर रहे हैं. But as a teacher, we need to understand this difference. Okay,
That's wonderful.
that's how we go ahead. Ashutosh sir, you wanted to ask something?
Discussion actually brings out how loosely and wrongly I use the term in everyday practice.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes,
There is
yes.
a very technical and very fine meaning attached to everything.
In Goraksha Shataka, he clearly says that this prana is nothing but your Atman. This prana that you inhale in and exhale out is the connectivity with the ultimate source. And you need to understand that you are not different from it, you are part and parcel of that source. So this has been explained in Goraksha Shataka itself.
Wow.
And he explains the Pancha Prana, the Dasha Prana, the Nadi. He explains this beautifully all, and leads, and so it becomes very important to you to understanding the differences between the practices and the approach one should have. See, the general public practice may be different. Kind of level, मुझे कभी कभी डर लगता है, आशुष भाई, I should tell you this. The kind of teachers that nowadays are produced within a small span of time and education. It is very good to encourage yoga, but at the same time, we are creating, I should not say this, but machines to practice yogic exercise.
Very true.
Now, so the perception to change. The great teachers know it, but the new teachers are falling short of this. And we, as messengers of yoga to the society, to keep this in mind and connect to it. Yeah, I think we should. Yeah.
That's an excellent note on which we end this session, because it's
Great.
11:45.
Yeah, please.
So let's begin the next one from here, please. So let's go to the prayer. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti.